In today's world, we often hear a lot about diversity and inclusion in the workplace. However, for Black women, achieving true equality can be a complex and difficult journey. Despite their incredible talents and contributions, Black women face significant challenges when it comes to rising through the ranks of leadership and finding success in professional settings. Let's talk about the challenges that Black women and women of color and women in general face when it comes to succeeding as leaders and professionals in every aspect of society. First of all, it's important to acknowledge the impact of systemic racism and sexism in our society. This leads to fewer opportunities for women of color to access education, jobs, and promotions. Additionally, women of color face bias and discrimination in the workplace, which can lead to lower pay, fewer opportunities for advancement, and less support from colleagues and superiors. A study by the National Partnership for Women and Families found that Black women earn only 63 cents for every dollar earned by white, non-Hispanic men, while Latinas only earn 57 cents for every dollar earned by white men. Women of color often face a lack of representation in leadership positions, which can make it difficult to find mentors and role models. The intersectionality of being both a woman and a person of color can lead to unique challenges that are often overlooked. According to a study by the American Psychological Association, Black women experience both racism and sexism simultaneously, which can lead to a feeling of isolation and exclusion in the workplace. In general, the numbers for women in our society aren't good at all. Think about this. Women are 50.8% of the United States population. They earn almost 60% of the undergraduate degrees and 60% of all master's degrees. They earn 47% of all law degrees and 48% of all medical degrees. They are 47% of the U.S. labor force and 59% of the college-educated entry-level workforce. And yet, although they hold almost 52% of all professional level jobs, American women lag substantially behind men when it comes to their representation in leadership positions. They are only 14.6% of executive officers, 8.1% of major earners, and only 4% of Fortune 500 CEOs. In the financial services industry, they make up 54.2% of the labor force, but are only 12.4% of executive officers and 18.3% of board directors. None are CEOs. They account for 78.4% of the labor force in healthcare and social assistance, but only 14.6% of executive officers and 12.4% of board directors. None, again, are CEOs. In the legal field, they are 45.4% of associates, but only 25% of non-equity partners and 15% of equity partners. In medicine, they comprise 34.3% of all physicians and surgeons, but only 15.9% of medical school deans. So what can we do to address these challenges? First, we need to acknowledge that they exist, commit to creating a more equitable workplace, and this includes implementing policies to address bias and discrimination, promoting diversity and inclusion, but going beyond that and providing support and resources for women of color. Secondly, we need to prioritize representation and mentorship for women of color in leadership positions. This can help break down the barriers that keep us from creating a more inclusive workplace culture. The challenges faced by Black women, women of color, and women in general in the workplace are significant and require action at every level of society. By working together, we can create a more equitable and inclusive workplace. We can help to ensure that every woman can succeed as a leader and professional.